Hi guys, thank you for being with us today. Before we start our presentation, I desire to ask you a question. Haven't you ever thought about dying? I make sure you did it, even many times. But when you were in that situation, do you ever think that someone was struggling with living out there? And the non-fiction book I want to interview you today is the memoir of such a person, a brave man like that. He is bound with an incurable disease, but he's still optimistic, fighting to the last moment until his breath becomes air.
About the author, Paul Kennedy. He was born in 1st April 1977 and died in 9 March 2015. He was an Indian American neurosurgeon and writer. He was a gifted doctor, a trapped resident in neurosurgery at Stanford. As if that wasn't enough, he was also a great writer. However, his helpless destiny has prevented him from enjoying the normal life. He was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer in 2013, when he was a 36-year-old man on the verge of making big contribution to the world with his mind and hands. The book, When Breath Becomes Air, is completely the reminiscence of Paul about his whole life, from being a child to adolescent struggling in fear of making decisions. When he graduated from English literature and was on his way to becoming a neurosurgeon at Stanford, he met his future wife, Lucy, and in those reminiscences he was diligently searching for the answer to the question, what makes a life worth living? In the title, When Breath Becomes Air, breath stands for life. The breath is derived from the poem that becomes a memoir Kellier 83 by Baron Brock Reville. The poem reads, "You that seek what life is in death, now fight ere that one was breath." The difference between airs and breath is mostly semantic. Breath is simply air that has one flow through a living human. Therefore, the moment in which breath becomes air describes the act of dying, with breath representing life. People don't often think about their remaining time or whether they had had meaningful lives until they truly confront their mortality, as Paul does.
When breath becomes air is divided into two parts. The first part is about Paul Ganatini's childhood and career choice. Paul was born in the family of doctors, but he never imagined himself to be a doctor. In his quest to understand the true meaning of life, Paul Ganatini completed degrees in English literature and human biology from Stanford University. He also worked in an fMRI lab to understand the working of the brain. He believed literature provided the best account of life, while neuroscience laid down the most sophisticated rules of the brain. The second part, named Cease Not Until Death, is all about his fight. With cancer progressing, Paul found himself growing weaker, but that didn't stop Paul from living his life on his own. At one point, when his cancer became a little stable, Paul pushed back himself to the work. But fortunately, Paul did not fight alone. His wife, Lucy, supported him through thick and thin. Knowing that death is impending, Paul and Lucy chose to continue living and decided to have a child, Elizabeth Arcadia.
About meaningful lessons, for me, When Breath Becomes Air is not the book. It's simply a reminiscence of a person reflecting on the verge of death and the concern of desire to live a meaningful life when he had no more days to live. Paul Kennedy insisted in the very first word that death is inevitable. He knew that someday he would die, when a bright future is slowly opening up. As a neurosurgeon, when he was wearing a white blouse yesterday, but today he's lying on a hospital bed with IV-stage lung cancer. However, that cannot stop him. It seems to make him even stronger, help him fight against the disease, continue to live his unfinished life, make him realize what he's living for. He wrote in the book that because I would have to live to learn in a different way, seeing death as an imposing itinerant visitor, but knowing that even if I'm dying, until I actually die, I'm still living. And about the first lesson I want to give to you guys is that sometimes you need to follow your heart. After his diagnosis, Paul held improved for a while, not knowing how much time had left. He was left with a decision. Should he return to his residency Boston? Many people recommend that he should spend more time with his family, but Paul doesn't want his life to stop there. He decided to go back with the support of his wife and family. Paul's return to work is not because of the responsibility, but simply because of his love and desire to pursue his passion. And the second lesson is that be deeply in love. Just prior to his cancer diagnosis, Paul and Lucy were having problems in their relationship and on the verge of separation. Yet, Paul discovered lung cancer seemed to have healed them together. They fought back this terrible disease instead of dying in the thought that he didn't have much time to live. Paul and Lucy welcome a little girl to their lives, and Lucy will wish Paul in his last breath.
I don't know how Paul found the physical strength to write this book while he was so debilitated by the disease. But we're so glad he did. Paul spent his whole brief life searching for meaning in one way or another. Through books, writing, medicine, surgery, and science. And we just wish his journey hadn't been cut so short. Quite frankly, When Breath Becomes Zero is not an easy English book for beginners or impatient person, because it was an autobiography by a doctor. It was filled with medical terminology throughout nearly 230 pages. And it's really hard to read this one straight without stopping to look up a dictionary for the name of a disease. In addition, a non-fiction book is associated with the stereotype that it is dry and confusing. It is not romantic or humorous like fiction. However, if you are struggle to study and take notice of this, you will discover that non-fiction books really great and attractive with a lot of meaningful lessons. As When Breath Becomes Zero, it helped me find what life is in death. One day you will leave this world behind, so live a life you will remember. This is one of the last message we want to give you. No matter how short this life is, live a meaningful life so that you will never regret looking back.